But Nick Saban and President Donald Trump met this week when he did a commencement speech at the University of Alabama. The conversation revolved around NIL, Joe. Can I be the guy that just calls it like it is and asks the questions?
Yeah.
Does it even matter? Like, there's not an executive order that Trump can sign to fix NIL. He can't get over Title IX. He can't get over the federal House case. What in the good wide world can Trump actually do here to fix capitalism?
Well, so this story, and I sent it to you on Friday, the On3 article that was about this. And I think that there's like a little bit of speculation about what Nick Saban actually spoke to President Trump about. And to your point, like, what would this executive order that Trump claimed that he's actually going to place on NIL, what would it entail? It referenced back in December that Saban had brought up that he wants a more level playing field in the angle specifically of every single state, the laws are different. So after I read that, it made a lot more clear sense to me. I think that the disjointedness of how every single state has different NIL laws is one of the most underlying driving forces for this complete shit show and for the consistent messes that we have every single recruiting cycle. I don't know what the solution is.
Every state has different laws for DWI.
Okay, I understand that, but a DWI doesn't have, like, there's no competition for DWIs. There's no, like, if I get a DWI in one state, it doesn't affect if somebody gets a DWI in another state. So that doesn't work. Like, nobody's competing to have the best DWI.
That there are some rednecks around the Deep South that are competing on how many DWIs they can get now.
The point is that
I get what you're saying.
He brought up, and Saban had kind of talked about the capabilities for there to be buyouts. The capability for a buyout not fixes, but mitigates the disaster that happened with the Iamaleava situation with both of the brothers. I think that there is something that could be done here. I just don't know to what degree. I think that the evenness is what Saban is seeking.
I'm not going to go into legality. I don't know if he has the legality.
Like, you don't think that Trump wouldn't be able to
Joe,
something like that?
Joe, you have federal judges right now that are opposing Trump on deporting gang members. Now you're going to sit here and tell me that now that there's something that's in a federal court system that's going through it, that they're not going to have pushback on this. And if you're a player, sue. If I'm Nico Iamaleava, I already sued once and won. If I want out, I want out. What do you like? I thought Claudia Wilkin, who is the judge for the House case, in her opening statement made the right determination. The NCAA, along with all Power Four and somebody with the Group of Five, should have came there collectively, proposed a collective bargaining agreement to her where they could have agreed on terms. Right? Like that's what they should have done, but they didn't do it. I don't understand what a buyout for what?
If a player leaves in the transfer portal,
I understand that.
The opposite school has to pay.
I understand that. How does an executive order do that when states have laws? So when states have specific laws, that's why when you have state-ran things, you would have to make a national mandate for all college athletics.
That's what it is.
You can't do that with Title IX. You're not going to be able to do buyouts. You're not going to be able to do all the things that Trump and Saban are opposing here with some of the federal regulations that you already have. There's no way. Claudia Wilkin literally brought up 2 weeks ago, if anybody is following this, literally brought up that about roster limitations. Joe, she's already bringing it up.
Well, okay. Well, here's my immediate, and this is nothing politically driven by stating this. I mean, Generally,
if we're going to talk about this, and
I know, but like Trump specifically often will say that he's going to just do things without understanding the ramifications of what it would take for it to actually get done. That is not a knock on anyone's political side or anything like that.
I agree.
I think that the way that I'm reacting to this, Blake, is just the premise. And the premise is finding a step to get to every single state having the same laws. That is step one. And I think that step doesn't solve all of our problems. I think that is a very easy thing to miss in the headline and an easy thing to miss in the story that some people might have clicked into and read this on Friday and thought Donald Trump's going to fix this whole thing. It is merely just a step, just like the House case is a step. But I think that's something that's not talked about enough, Blake, is that across the country, no state has the same laws. So some states have advantages over other states because they've had the laws for longer and they've had freer NIL laws than what others have.
I do think Trump has an advantage here. Let me throw it at you. He can put pressure on schools that don't abide by his executive order. Let me explain.
Yes. Yep.
Harvard, Columbia, Penn. What all happened to all three of them? They stopped receiving federal funding when the trans right issues started to take hold in college athletics. Harvard's getting federal funding again. Did you see it this week? It was reported. Look, I mean, I'm old enough that I kind of have to follow the news. I don't know if everybody does. Harvard's getting federal funding this week. What he can do is what he did with the trans right issues in reference to biological men. And I don't care if you think this is political or not. Trans men should not be in women's sports. Sorry. I mean, like, let's just put I
agree with you on that.
Okay. Let's put a line in the sand here. Okay. That might be the only thing that we get political here on.
Yep.
The problem with that is that Trump put on so much pressure that people started backing down and they're not going to test him. Does he have the political capital? Can he do that for college football? We're not talking about other sports here. Let's just be real. We're not talking about college basketball. We're not talking about college lacrosse. We're not talking about tennis. We're not even talking about college baseball. We're talking about football. I mean, are we not? That's exactly
what it was Nick Saban. I don't think Nick Saban gives a shit about any of those other sports.
No, he doesn't. So as much as I said, what can he do? What I think he can do, if he really wants to take this on, he can hit schools with federal funding if they don't abide by his executive order. When you start tapping into people's money, they start getting right then, don't they? So, but hold on now.
Mm-hmm.
That's a temporary fix. The man, I mean, I don't know when he's out of office. Was it 2027, 2028, whatever it is? It would be a temporary fix. Now, it would, in my humble opinion, it could help teams and help situations resolve themselves in a 3-year window, right? He can do that. Let me make this very well clear. I am behind Saban and Trump figuring this out. The worry I have is, does Trump really care enough to get this done? I do think that he has a political win sitting in his face, that if he fixes this, people will love him for it, right? It's a political win for him. But I do think that there's a way to do it. He's got to hit teams with federal funding. But my question is if a kid, it's not the schools that aren't abiding, right? Like, in the sense of the situation I fear that would come from this would be, if a player wants to leave, then how can you tell a player not to leave? Now, the Nico case is something very rare, is it not?
It is.
Okay.
Very rare.
We're taking that specific case in reference to a buyout for some. Joe, you and I both know, we talk to people. Players are getting cut around college football every week, every year. Yes. So my question now becomes, okay, are we taking the Nico case and we're trying to expand it here? Like, why would a team buy somebody out who hit the portal and they never had conversations with him?
Well,
you see what I'm saying? Like, how do you justify that?
Well, but that's the whole point, is that if a player wants to leave and a school is losing that player, in professional sports, there's usually some sort of a return. If you trade a player, you get something in return. If a player leaves in free agency, you get a compensatory draft pick even. So I think that the whole
But not for everybody.
Not for everybody, but for top players on your team.
Well, how do you tag that?
What do you mean?
How would you tag what players are worthy and not worthy?
Based on if you sign a kid to a big, it's just like with a coach's contract. Like if a coach gets up, that's the whole better connection is that like if a coach gets up and leaves, a school gets the money for the coach that's leaving in return for the coach.
Hey, I got an idea. You ready?
What?
Why don't you start putting buyouts in these contracts already for kids that are signing NIL deals? Why do you need Trump to do it?
Well, that's already something that's been starting to happen. But the problem, the whole problem is that there's not. This whole thing, as we all know, is a very complicated issue. Like it's very hard for us to like really unpack because there's details that are not in front of our faces that are in these contracts that none of us get the chance to read. So that's the whole thing with the Madden, Maliava deal is that he tried to leave and the school wants his money back. It's basically the same concept. But
they're going to have to sue him,
right? I have a thought with this though. Instead of trying to sit here and fix the issues and figure out what the issues are, what do you think of Saban being the mouthpiece for this?
Who else should be?
Well, that's why I'm asking. Like, do you feel comfortable that Saban's the one pushing for this?
I think that Saban's calculated in everything that he does. I think Saban does not want for anybody to ever touch his record when it comes to things, and that's why he keeps saying a more even playing field. But here's the thing that I have a problem with. Nick, it was never an even playing field for you. It was never an even playing field for Nick. So I think he's talking out of both sides of his mouth here. Here's the thing. Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, and so many others had the chance to take this by the balls and figure some shit out, and they didn't do it. I got to be real with you. I like Tony Petitti. I like Greg Sankey. I think they failed. I think they massively failed in this entire situation. So the question becomes, if it's not Saban, then who?
It should be Sankey and Petitti, I think. I just think that why are we allowing a former coach to be the one who's driving this conversation?
Because he's not hired by anybody that's affiliated with all these schools, and Sankey's got to play middleman to all these other schools that are sitting there complaining, and he's got to justify for everybody. That's exactly why, if we're just being honest, he never hit Nick on the tampering stuff. When the A&M thing went down, Sankey never came down on anybody. He didn't come down on Nick with Keyshawn Boutte. He didn't come down on Nick. Nick Saban went to the draft last year and said that they were actively tampering for a kid at Toledo.
He did it this year, too. He did it this year with Wyatt Milam, the West Virginia offensive lineman that he apparently tried to get him to leave and come to Alabama, too.
So to that point.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that, like, I understand what you're saying here, that there's all these things that they have to focus and worry about. I just feel a little off that Saban almost feels a little sneakily the setting in which he is approaching Donald Trump to try and get this to happen.
What do you think he's trying to do?
I don't know why he has to be the one who's doing this. Why are the leaders of college football not the ones going and speaking? I bet Sankey's pissed off about this. I really bet that Sankey's pissed that he saw
here's
this headline.
The thing with Sankey. You've been up to Capitol Hill at least 30 times. You haven't gotten shit done. Here's the truth. We talked about this on this show. Greg Sankey's happy ass went up to Capitol Hill less than a year ago. And when he was up on Capitol Hill, he was asked by John Kennedy, a senator, and Ted Cruz, does he have a proposal for college athletics? And he said no. He said no. He said that they needed federal mandates. They asked him what federal mandates does he want to be set? He didn't have a response. And then therefore, John Kennedy went out there and said, well, then get all schools to sign a collective bargaining agreement. And he said, we can't do that. So we want to talk about Sankey. We want to talk about Petitti. They're failing. Now, I will give Saban one out here. You ready? Here it is. Mm-hmm. Saban didn't go to Trump. Trump came to him. Trump came to
he was there for a commencement speech, you said?
He was there for a commencement speech. It's not as if that Saban flew up to D.C. They gave Saban the honors of introducing the president of the United States. He also gave a commencement speech, okay, for Alabama, which was awesome, by the way. If anybody wants to go listen to it, was a fantastic speech by Nick Saban. The problem is, I don't know who else that you could put a face on until everybody would agree to a commissioner, which nobody will do. Nobody's going to do, Joe. I mean, like, there's so many different ways to try to get through this. Why shouldn't Saban have the voice? If he's got the president's ear, why shouldn't he talk about it? And quite frankly, name somebody else other than Nick Saban that can openly get the ear and walk up to the president of the United States and say, can I have 10 minutes of your time? And the man say yes. Greg Sankey cannot walk up to the president of the United States and say, can I have 10 minutes of your time? No, they're not going to know who he is. No, they won't. But Nick Saban will. So to the point of, I think Saban's trying to backhand some things for his own legacy and his own self. Sure, I get it. And things weren't easy for him. At the same time, no one else has the balls to stand up and do anything about it.
I understand that, but like it feels odd to me because I don't know what Nick Saban's agenda is. I don't. I know what Greg Sankey's agenda is. I know what Tony Petitti's agenda is. I know what Brent Yormark's agenda is. I know what their all agendas are, which is their conference succeeding, their players being happy, and coaches not tearing their hair out because it is an unsettled situation in the transfer portal and NIL and in the world of college sports. I don't know why Nick Saban's doing this. I don't know what he gets out of it. Nobody does something like this if they don't do it to get something.
Oh, yeah, I'll answer that.
Is it that simple, though, to assume that he is just doing this so that he can be considered the savior of college football?
Yeah, it is, because that man ticks from a different type. He ticks from a different.
I don't know if that's a good reason, though. I don't know if that's like a good reason.
You mean to tell me that the man?
Well, it's selfish. That's really selfish. That's not in everybody's best interest. It's in his own best interest. Is it not? And I know he historically is selfish.
Hold on. You got to take this from multiple different layers. The end goal for him, for his legacy, is to get this done. You're asking why he is doing this. I told you because it would be great for his legacy. So do you mean to tell me that if he got something passed and Trump did it, that it wouldn't be better than what's already going on? So you can't live in the same prism that you're in right now and say that the man that fixes it doesn't get the reward based off of what he wants. Right? Like, I mean, I understand what you're saying here. You don't trust the man. Like, you don't trust that he's not trying to.
I'm not saying that I don't.
Do you trust him? Saban, yes or no? No.
No. Wait. No, what I said to you is I don't know if I trust him. I don't know if I trust him because I don't know what he's trying to do. And then let's go back to the beginning of this segment that we said where I had to speculate based on a quote that was placed in the article by On3 referencing something that he said back in December during College Game Day, during the college football playoff. We don't know what he is telling Donald Trump. We don't know if Greg Sankey or Tony Petitti are aligned with what he told him. This is what I'm coming from, is that
Nick Saban does not tell Trump anything without Sankey being involved. I'm sorry, it doesn't happen.
I feel like Saban does whatever the hell he wants.
He does, but I think he does, but I think people are underestimating the fact of that Sankey, when he was commissioner and he came into the league, Bo Davis got popped with recruiting violations, and he did absolutely jack shit to Nick Saban. Not a damn thing. No. Look, name somebody else that can do it. Who do you want up there?
I don't. The thing is I don't truly know, but I believe that the people who should be, at the very least, should be the people who you were saying are not doing enough. Sankey and
why haven't they done anything? When are we gonna allow them to do anything?
This is to reiterate, this is my whole issue with everything that happens in college sports, is that there's too much at the current moment of just like sitting back and waiting, and then too many closed door meetings that happen between Petiti and between Sankey that we keep hearing about. That's the world that we live in.
I got a question for you. Do they want this to really end?
Yes.
I don't think that they do.
I think that they want the NCAA to look as stupid as possible, which is why they're not doing anything. I think that they want to be able to have as much.
But here's the problem. They're looking as dumb and as stupid as they are. I got to be real with you.
I don't know if everyone criticizes them as much as we do, though. I don't think that they do. I don't think that the media scrutinizes them, but I feel like fans don't even acknowledge them.
Fan that listens to this needs to do and get a deep dive in on what Greg Sankey and Tony Petiti have refused to do, and then that will change. But Joe, we're on year. By the way, buddy, we're a month away from year 5 of NIL. This will be year 5. No one has done anything. It got enacted in July, 2 months. It got enacted in July 1st of 2020, nationwide. And no one has done anything. Nobody. I'm glad somebody has the ear of the president that can potentially get something done. Because you guess what? Tommy Tuberville is a sitting U.S. senator. He couldn't get shit done.
Maybe that's all a reason why we shouldn't have optimism that anything.
Well, and I don't agree with Tuberville. Tuberville says that there should never be transfers ever.
That's dumb.
I think his policies are stupid. So we'll see. Yeah. Cody McGee with a $10 super chat says, "Why don't we do like the NFL teams that do a salary cap? You got to have a collective bargaining agreement."
Yeah, I mean,
by the way. Yeah. Major League Baseball does not have a salary cap. You can get away without doing a salary cap here. Let them dictate it.
We don't need the salary cap, nor do I want one. We don't need a draft, which has been like loosely thrown out there by people. All we need are standardized contracts in every single state that have requirements for how long you have to be there, that have buyouts if you choose to leave early and you decide to leave early, whatever it is. That way both sides are protected. So like, say you sign a 2-year contract, say that the kid really is not happy and he can't be forced to stay there. There's a lot of truth to that. That kid can leave as long as his next school pays the buyout. That's it.
Can I ask a question? What happens if a kid is paid a lot of money and the kid whiffs and they cut his ass and they tell him to go on?
But that's the protection of the contract is that, and this is why we need a collective bargaining agreement. We need somebody on the side of the players to say like, okay, well, if it's just like in the NFL, if you get cut, you had a certain amount of guaranteed money that still get like, was it Bobby Bellina, the Mets player?
Yeah, $1 million until like 2032.
Right. It's saying like you'll still get paid even if you're getting released. So this is why the first step is unified laws across the country, and then a collective bargaining agreement. That's the way that I see it. I don't know anything about law. I'm not a law professional.
Me either.
I'm just reading these leagues and how things have worked. I have read plenty on the history of the NFL and how chaotic and stupid it was at the very beginning and the steps that it took to get to where it is now.
Well, follow those steps. Maybe you'll get somewhere.
Yeah.
All right, last thing before we get to the break. Elk says Michigan president getting out of town, the hammer incoming. Joe, we'll just thank you, Alex, for the super chat.
Yeah.
We're going to wait for us to talk about that until things really start coming down the pipe. I will say this, to Alex's point, it does seem a little bit fishy that the president is out and going to Florida. It does seem fishy. There are some highly respected people that we like and that we think they're very truthful, who have already started throwing up some flags here. I will just say this, Joe. I get what everybody has said in reference to other teams. Do it. I get it. You can't let somebody walk away freely. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't. You got to take some form of action. I don't care what the action is, but Joe, to this point, Michigan has not been popped. And John Harbaugh being suspended for those games is not enough. That cannot be the punishment. Now, I will throw this back your way. What was Tennessee's fine? Fine them for all I care. But at the same time, Joe, we're going on year 2 of college football, and we haven't had a judgment on this.
Well, when it's not
Yeah, we're going on year 2.
Okay, I guess we're approaching the second season since they won that national title.
Yeah,
look, I'm not going to weigh in on the
August is almost here.
No, it's May right now. We don't need to jump
May,
that far
June,
ahead.
July, August.
All right. I'm not going to talk about an appropriate punishment because we will start screaming at each other for the next 30 minutes and we won't get to the rest of the show. But I do think that, as you're saying here, that this is with no punishment being delivered yet. It feels like this is some sort of an indicator. The president leaving for a good job opportunity. It was a great landing spot to take over a school that just won a basketball championship. We talked about on the last show the high hopes for the football program this upcoming year. It is a great spot to take with the situation that they're leaving, with the mess of not only the sign stealing scandal, but also a coach that hacked into female students' information. So like there is mess after mess after mess. I wouldn't want to sit there and sift through that shit. I wouldn't.
I don't know how they don't get hit with a lack of institutional control. I've seen schools get hit with a lack of institutional control for far less.
We'll see.
I mean, I'm serious. I'm being dead serious. I mean, I have. So grow some balls, somebody.
This is a mistake for saying this.
Here we go.
How is what the guy did where he hacked into the female students something that anyone could control? Like, how did it?
Because companies still get popped when someone underneath them breaks federal law. This isn't some state law. This isn't some like small
Nobody
thing.
knew he was doing it though.
It doesn't, Joe. In a criminal investigation, in a civil investigation, you could be sued if somebody at your business was doing something.
But they immediately, as soon as they found out that he was doing something nefarious as he was, they removed him immediately. What else are they supposed to do?
Companies get sued every.
They didn't hide it.
Okay, but companies get sued civilly every single day based off of things that their employees do. I'll give a brief, non-close argument to this. Think about Walmart truck drivers for just a second. Okay. When they get in a fender bender or they get in an accident, Walmart gets sued for what the employee did. Nobody was asking the employee to drive recklessly. No one at Walmart was doing that, but they get sued civilly. Do they not?
I guess that's true.
I mean, that's the argument that people are coming up with is you've hit schools with lack of institutional control for far less. I mean, this happens around our country all the time. It happens every day. I mean, I know a buddy who used to make a joke that he's going to run out in front of a Walmart 18-wheeler because they had a minimum $1 million insurance policy on every 18-wheeler that's on the streets. How stupid?
I don't know. Yeah, that is.
How stupid is that? Like, I'm just going to run out in front of them and see what happens. Do you know how dumb you are?
Well, yeah, you're not surviving that.
No, you're not surviving that, you idiot. Anyway. All right.